Hey everyone, so, picture this. You've been driving for hours, it's pitch black outside, exhaustion is heavily setting in, and then you see it. A glowing, buzzing neon sign right off the highway promising a cheap bed. We have literally all been there. But today, in this explainer, we're diving into 3 terrifying true encounters that happen in these bizarre, liminal spaces. These are real stories, straight from the people who live them, and honestly, they're absolutely going to make you think twice before you pull off the interstate ever again.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Look, when you think about it, there are pretty much only 2 reasons anyone books a budget roadside motel, right? For the vast majority, it's just out of sheer necessity on a long road trip when your eyes simply cannot stay open anymore. And for the rest, you're probably just trying to offset expensive hotel costs for your vacation. You aren't expecting luxury here, you know? You just want a solid lock on the door and a quiet spot to close your eyes. But what happens when that basic, simple expectation goes horribly, horribly wrong?
Well, it all starts with the late-night check-in. This vulnerable state is the shared starting point for all 3 of our narratives today.
Let's jump into Tale 1, the voice actor. This is literally a solo driver's worst nightmare.
So, our first case study involves a guy doing a massive solo road trip down from New York to Tennessee. Imagine you've been behind the wheel for 10, maybe 15 hours. Your eyes are incredibly heavy. You're in this desperate, highly vulnerable state where your primal need to just lay down completely overrides your normal situational awareness. He pulls off a dark Virginia highway at around 1 a.m. and finds his classic, kinda sketchy 2-floor motel. You know the type. All the room doors face directly out into the open parking lot. He crashes on the bed, trying to sleep, but he starts hearing muffled arguing right through the paper-thin walls. He hears a deep, angry voice, and then a softer, female-sounding voice. Naturally, he logically assumes it's just a couple having a late-night fight next door. But then, he notices the timing is suspiciously perfect. There's zero overlap between the shouting, no talking over each other. That is when the horrifying realization hits him. It's not a couple. It's one man, totally alone, flawlessly imitating both voices in a deeply disturbing, fully rehearsed conversation with himself.
Suddenly, the voices completely stop, dead silence, and then 3 slow, deliberate knocks hit the shared wall, right beside his bed, just a fist heavily thudding against the drywall. Then, a muffled, almost playful voice seeps right through the wall. "I hear you in there." I mean, just let the sheer terror of that sink in for a second. No way.
He frantically cranks up the TV to drown it out. But wait, it gets worse. He hears a door open outside. He literally feels the heavy vibration of footsteps on the wooden balcony outside, walking straight toward his room. The footsteps stop, right outside his window. Now, he's got this tiny crack in his blinds where they don't quite meet the wall. So, I have to ask you, what would you do here? Do you look through the crack or do you hide under the covers? Well, curiosity gets the absolute better of him. He steps up to the window and cautiously peers through the gap.
Boom! Immediate eye contact. The man's face is completely pressed up against the glass, eyes wide open, just staring right back at him. Our driver jumps back in absolute pure panic. And that's when the guy outside totally loses it. He starts performing an entire creepy voice acting routine right outside the door. He's rapidly switching characters, dropping into this bizarre, exaggerated southern accent, and violently banging his fists on the door. It's a massive, terrifying display of highly unstable behavior. Eventually, the front desk moves our guy to a new room downstairs. But that same man somehow finds him again and repeatedly stalks past his new window in total, eerie silence until the sun finally comes up.
Okay, let's shift gears to Tale 2, the silent ambush, a highly coordinated threat. This one takes place back in 2022 with a group of college-aged women traveling with their stepmom and grandma, heading back to Texas from Missouri. They decide to pull over at a roadside motel in Oklahoma around 8 p.m. to get some rest. But let's look at how a seemingly innocent lack of situational awareness unknowingly invited a major threat here. First, they drop their bags off, and the grandma calls down to the lobby asking for their room number so she can change. Step 2. The sister carelessly announces the room number out loud right there in the middle of the lobby. And Step 3. A strange man who's just standing quietly in the corner wearing a black sweater overhears exactly where these vulnerable women are going to be sleeping. To make matters even worse, later that night when they get back from grabbing food, the sister accidentally repeats the room number out loud in front of him all over again. So, the women are split between 2 rooms up on the 2nd floor, with one empty motel room separating them. About 20 minutes after settling into their beds, the stepmom suddenly bursts into the girls' room and tells them to pack immediately. She is dead serious.
She had just opened her door to take out the trash and found that exact same man in the black sweater, just standing silently against the wall in the dark, right next to her door. He didn't even look surprised. He just stared at her. And then he calmly walked right into the supposedly empty room that separated their two rooms. He was literally positioning himself right between them.
Look at how insanely fast this escalates from a creepy encounter into a full-blown emergency. Minute 1, the stepmom demands they pack their bags and run. Minute 3, as they rush out, they spot the first man stepping out of the elevator, clearly keeping tabs on them. Minute 4, they get outside to the parking lot and see a second man peering into car windows, physically jiggling handles, actively trying to break in. Minute 5, this second guy spots the women, motions with his head to signal the others, and suddenly a third man appears out of the shadows. Now 3 men are silently and aggressively walking toward their vehicle as the women scramble inside and absolutely peel out of the lot into the night. It went from a single creepy listener in the lobby to a highly coordinated ambush in just 5 minutes.
Which brings us to our final case. Tale 3, the staring contest. A deadly silence.
Imagine you and your partner are 11 agonizing hours into a completely exhausting drive down to Florida. It's 1 a.m., and you pull off the highway into this desolate, nearly abandoned ground floor motel. The front office lights have literally just clicked off. It is dead, isolating quiet. The boyfriend unpacks the car, goes into the room, but then realizes he left his phone charger in the center console. So he steps back out to the car, leaving the motel door cracked open so he doesn't lock himself out. Well, when he turns around to head back inside, his heart drops. There is a massive man wearing a long trench coat, which, by the way, completely didn't fit the mildly chilly weather, standing right next to their cracked open motel room door. The boyfriend jogs over to confront him, asking what he's doing walking around so late. The massive man just smiles, and in this unsettlingly soft, creepy voice says, "Oh, I'm staying upstairs, just going for a stroll." The boyfriend hurries inside and immediately bolts the heavy door. But as he stands there, listening, he realizes something terrifying. He doesn't hear any footsteps walking away. So he drops to his hands and knees, crawls over to the window, and delicately pulls the curtain back just a fraction of an inch. 10. That is the number of excruciating minutes he spent on his knees, staring out the window, watching the man in the trench coat stand completely frozen, just staring directly at their motel door. Literally a 10-minute dead silent staring contest right through the glass.
He finally crawls back to bed and shakes his girlfriend awake. He is begging her to go look out the window just so she'll believe him. She's super annoyed, obviously frightened, but she crawls over to the window and peeks out at the doorway. She turns back to him and whispers, "He's not there." So, the agonizing question is, where did he go? Did he actually finally leave them alone?
The boyfriend frantically whispers back, "Look harder." She gasps in absolute terror and runs back to the bed. The boyfriend crawls back to look for himself and notices a truly terrifying shift in the stalker's behavior. The man hadn't left at all. He was now standing all the way across the dark parking lot, completely still, but he wasn't facing their door anymore. He had changed his vantage point and was now facing their window. He knew they were watching him.
Checking out for good, the lingering reality. Somehow, they hunker down and survive the night. Morning light breaks, the immediate terror seems to fade, but the lingering reality of what actually happened really sets in. I mean, all 3 of these stories share the exact same elements: extreme isolation, sheer physical exhaustion, and the terrifying vulnerability of a place that anyone can just walk right into directly off the highway. But the boyfriend in our last story? Yeah, he gets one final horrific twist to take home. As they pack up the car, he goes to the front desk to return the key to the same lady who checked him in the night before. He complains about the creepy guy from upstairs in the trench coat stalking their room. The woman looks at him completely shocked and genuinely scared. She tells him 2 absolutely terrifying things. 1, you were the only guests we had last night. And 2, we don't have cameras. That man in the trench coat was never staying upstairs. He wasn't a guest at all.
So the absolute crucial takeaway from this explainer is just how completely thin the illusion of security really is when you're out on the open road. You pull over, you hand over $20, and you think you're perfectly safe just because you're behind a flimsy wooden door. But with no cameras, no real security, and anyone able to wander right off the interstate into the parking lot, who will be waiting outside your door on your next road trip? Keep your eyes open, double-check those locks, stay safe out there, and thanks for exploring this with me.